What's going on YouTube? So of course the Outback is the big boy in the Subaru lineup. But for those of you who prefer a sedan body style, the Legacy is there for you. It was also fully redesigned this year, and like the Outback, got a big dose of luxury and tech. But does it have what it takes to take on the Camry, Accord, and Altima head-to-head? Let's go ahead and find out. Now we'll kick off this review with the exterior design. Now it has been fully redesigned, but it doesn't change a whole lot from the outgoing generation. So what you'll notice right here in the center is Subaru's typical kind of clean and simple grille. It is this way across all the trim levels except for the Sport, where this chrome part will be blacked out. And then as far as your lighting, the big change for 2020 is that you now have standard LEDs on every single trim level, and they are adaptive LEDs if you choose the top 2 trim levels. But as far as the actual design, this headlight unit pretty much looks the same. And then down here at the bottom, you will also find LED fog lights on the Sport trim and higher. Now checking out the wheels here, as typical with any redesign, you're going to have new options. So for 2020, starting out on the base trim level, that's going to be a 17-inch steel wheel with hubcaps. You have a 17-inch alloy when you move up to the premium. And then when you get to the Sport or the limited trim level, that's where you're going to have an 18-inch alloy. It is blacked out on the Sport model. And then moving up here to your mirrors, you've got a really cool design here where this chrome actually extends out onto the mirror. It is usually body colored, but if you choose the Sport model, this would be blacked out. And then as far as the different technologies, you're going to find blind spot monitoring on the limited and touring trim level, and we also have optional auto dimming.
Alrighty, so checking out the rear design of this all-new Legacy, you are going to still have that same conservative look as you do get with pretty much any Subaru. And as far as the feature set, you are going to have these partially LED taillights standard across all of the Legacies. However, if you want to spice things up a little bit back here, you can go for the Sport trim, which will add a spoiler as well as some fake exhaust pipes down here. But that does bring us to this car's big airball. We were talking about this. We just wish that Subaru had maybe done something else to kind of spice this Legacy up. It doesn't really look like an all-new vehicle, and especially in this segment where Camry and Accord and Sonata, they're really just doing a lot to inject some style. It really would have been nice if Subaru had done something different with this new Legacy. Now this is a Subaru after all, and that does mean that safety is going to be a priority for this new Legacy, and in that fashion, Subaru has made all of the safety systems standard across the board. That means that even the base model will have automatic pre-collision braking, lane keeping assist, adaptive cruise control, and auto high beam headlights. In addition to that, if you option for a limited or touring model, you will also get rear auto braking. Well guys, that sums up the exterior about this all-new 2020 Legacy. So now let's go ahead and hop inside before we take it out on the spin.
So on the all-new Legacy, you will find Subaru Smart Entry System and their typical key fob on the Sport trim and up. And then of course, to get inside the vehicle itself, all you have to do is just reach behind the handle, and there is a sensor. Alright, now checking out this all-new cabin. This is certainly the area that has received the most changes with this all-new model. Now as far as your different color and material options, what you'll be looking at on your base through your Sport trim is going to be cloth seating. The limited gets leather, and then if you go for the touring, you get very premium Napa leather. And then for your color options, you have gray on the base model, black, titanium, or warm ivory for all of the rest of the trim levels, besides for the touring, which has an exclusive Java brown color. And then turning over here to your door trim, it is very nicely appointed. You actually have leather pretty much covering the entire thing, so you have it across all the armrests, all through here with a really nice genuine stitching detail, and even the top part here is soft touch. You get some piano black accents. You will also find 2-person memory seating on the limited and touring trims, and then all 4 of your windows are one-touch automatic. Heading down here to your seat, this is your 10-way power adjusting seat with 2-way lumbar support. It is standard on all but the very base model, and we also have a manual thigh extension. And then, like I was already mentioning, this is real leather, and in typical Subaru fashion, they really design a lot of attractive seats. It has a nice design. It's really soft as well. Now, like I was saying, this interior really is nothing like the outgoing generation. So like the Outback, materials have taken a big step up. So across your upper dash here, this is a soft touch plastic, and then dropping down below that, all this center area is covered in a leatherette with a genuine stitching detail. Some more right here below that, as well as a wood accent. And then down here on your lower areas, you even have a padding for your knee to rest against, and everything does fit together extremely well. On the sport trim and up, you have push button start. Now taking a look at the gauges here, this of course is your typical Subaru setup. It is mostly analog, and then you have a large 4.2-inch multifunction display right there in the middle, and you can cycle through some of your basic information. However, you know, just like we found in the Outback, because of course they are related to each other, inside of this giant display, which we'll get into a little later in the video, but inside of this giant display, what was previously like a separate helper display, that's now integrated in this top part. So what you'll do is just kind of hit this arrow, and then you can find some of that other information that is not in the multifunction display, so you have some extra stuff that is right there. Now heading back to the steering wheel itself, of course it is nicely leather wrapped on most of the trim levels. It is electric power assisted steering as well. Additionally, here on the Limited and the Touring, it is also heated, and then you do have manual adjustment. Alright, and now let's go ahead and talk about interior storage, which I'd say is just about in line with the vast majority of the competition. Now, at our center console here, you actually have 2 tiers. So you have a small upper tier here, which has, you know, a little bit of space, actually a great area to keep a nice thick stack of coupons. And then when you open up the lower tier, that's where you'll find the main bit of storage, which is quite deep. It does have a nice felt lining at the bottom, as well as a 12-volt outlet. You do have 2 cup holders as well. These are also very deep. And then in the front here, this is pretty small, but it does have a Qi wireless phone charger, as well as some connections right there. And then finally, you've got a little storage shelf to fit a few extra items. Then coming back to the shifter, of course this is just a traditional shifter. Pull back for drive. You can bump to the left if you want to go into manual mode for simulated gear changes. And then heading into reverse, you will find a standard backup camera on every single trim level. We do also have, of course, active trajectory, as you can tell, and parking sensors. Now, it is worth noting, though, that on the new Legacy, you do not have the availability of a 360-degree camera system. Instead, just like in the Outback, you have a front camera system available if you choose the Touring trim, but you will never have any types of side cameras. And then right above that, you have your electronic parking brake. Alright, so we've avoided it long enough, so we might as well hit the real elephant in the car, which is this gigantic new display. This is 11.6 inches, and it is actually standard on all but the very base trim level. And even that trim level comes with 2 separate 7-inch displays, so no matter which Legacy you choose, you're going to have basically a lot of displays and a lot of stuff that's concentrated here in the display area. So what we'll do is start with the bottom here. This is going to be your climate controls. Now, dual zone automatic climate control is standard on all but the base model. As you can see, you do have some hard buttons that are located right here, but some other buttons are inside of the screen exclusively. Now, one of the things that Subaru highlights inside of their documentation is that this climate control system and the main infotainment system, they actually run on separate processors, so they have their own horsepower. So you should not see any types of issues with lag when you're using the climate controls down here. Additionally, you have your buttons for your 3-stage heated seats. These are standard on the premium model and up. However, if you want ventilation, that's going to require you get the very highest end touring model. Moving on up the side, you also have physical buttons for your volume and tune. And what we'll go ahead and do is take a sample of the audio system. This, of course, being the limited model, does have the 576 watt 12 speaker Harman Kardon sound system. I have to say, this is an excellent sounding sound system. One of the best sound systems I've ever heard in a midsize sedan. Okay, so let's go ahead and kind of delve into this main infotainment system. This is, of course, running the latest Starlink system, and it is very similar, or exactly the same as what we saw in the all-new Outback a little earlier in the year. Now, in this specific example, we do have the optional navigation system, and as you can see, it does take up basically the entire display. This is going to be optional on all but the base trim level, and it is standard on the touring trim level. However, you will have both Android Auto and Apple CarPlay abilities on board, even if you choose the base model. Now, moving on up here, we do have an auto-dimming mirror. It is the frameless design with the compass and the HomeLink universal remotes. And then up here at the very top, we have a regular size moonroof. This is going to be standard on the XT Limited and the Touring only, and we did option it on to this specific example.
Alrighty, so getting back to the rear seats of this Legacy, obviously this is a midsize sedan, so comfort is going to be a priority back here, and I'm happy to say that there's a ton of space and a ton of luxury. So here in the center area, we will have standard rear vents, and then down below that, we will also have 2 smart charging USB ports, and that's going to be standard on all but the very base model. And in addition to that, we do also have 2-stage heated rear seats. That's going to be on the limited and touring trims, which I think that's pretty impressive since some of the rivals like the Hyundai Sonata and Toyota Camry don't offer that at all. And then here at in the center, we do have a nice fold-down armrest, cup holders inside. And as far as the space itself is concerned, you're going to come in at 40 inches of rear legroom and 37 inches of rear headroom, which does place it right in line with the Camry and Accord. And you can definitely feel that back here. Behind rear seating position, I have about, I would say, at least 8 inches of rear legroom, and my feet don't have any issues sliding up under the seat, so definitely a very comfortable place to spend time. Now, walking up to the trunk, in order to get in, just locate the button under the lid. And once you do, you're going to find a good amount of space for the class. It's going to come in at 15.1 cubic feet of space, which is right in line with that of the Camry and Accord. And as far as the feature set back here, we do have a nice carpeting along the floor. And if you lift the floor up, you will find a compact spare tire. Now, in addition to that, you do also have the option to fold the seat 60-40 split. Now the passenger seat is going to be power adjusting on the limited trims and higher. And in front of the passenger, we do have a good sized glove box. It's nicely dampened, felt lined, and does have plenty of space for any type of coupons you could ever need. And up top, we do have a sun visor with a light and mirror, and it does also detach as well as extend.
Alright, so first taking off here in this 2020 all-new Legacy. Of course, there's not going to be like a great deal of surprise here. We have been in the all-new Outback, and you know, they do share the same stuff under the hood. Now, this is the regular Legacy. This is what the vast majority of people are going to go with. This is your 2.5 liter boxer 4-cylinder. Power is going to be 182 horsepower, 176 pound-feet of torque. But like the Legacy, or like the Outback, excuse me, this Legacy has added back the XT trim level. So, you know, so I believe that was completely absent from the, you know, outgoing generation. You had the 6-cylinder. Now we're back to a turbo.
Yeah, and we actually experienced. We did an Outback XT just to drive it, and we wanted to know what it was like, and we were very, very impressed with that powertrain setup. So it's a 2.4 liter turbo boxer 4, producing 260 horsepower and 277 pound-feet of torque, which is quite a bit of a power boost over this base setup.
Right. But you know, there's certainly nothing wrong with the way that this accelerates in the standard form. This is definitely class competitive. Gets up to speed that was getting all the way up to highway speed quite swiftly. Now, what you probably could tell while I was accelerating up there was that we have a continuously variable transmission. Now, it does have a shift simulation effect, and there's actually a little bit of a sensation of shifting, so it's fairly realistic as far as CVTs go, you know, towards that simulation of an automatic transmission.
You know, now that we are up to speed here, I do kind of want to talk about, you know, this vehicle's mission and highlight. You know, I think when it comes to its driving dynamics, you know, of course, it's not going to knock your socks off the power in this base engine. The driving dynamics are not, you know, the top of the class or anything, but what it does do really well is the comfort side of things. So we're going around 45 miles an hour, and honestly, it's just super duper comfortable in here. Road noise is very minimal, and then when you hit a bump, it really handles it very well, especially here in this limited trim. And I will go ahead and get a sound level reading here to see what it's like going 45 miles an hour. Yeah, and that just kind of confirms it here. We're looking at 53 decibels.
Wow.
Now, granted, we are going a little bit slower than we do in some of our other testing, but 53 is a very low number. That's typically what we see in luxury vehicles. So if that gives you, you know, a reference point, this Legacy is certainly going to be a luxury and comfort-oriented ride. Now, obviously, this Legacy does come standard with all-wheel drive, since pretty much every Subaru does have that. So that means you're only going to have 2 fuel economy ratings for the 2 different engines. So if you go for this base setup, it's going to be 27 city, 35 highway, 30 combined. And then the XT is going to have a 3 mpg reduction on that, down to 27 combined.
And that right there is related to the fuel economy. That's your auto start-stop system. Shutdown and startup were pretty smooth. You know, it handles it pretty well most of the time. Now, like I have mentioned in other Subarus, you got that cool timer effect, which kind of shows you how much fuel you're saving by using the auto start-stop system, so I do like that. And then your defeat button. It's important to know where that's at for those of you who don't like the system. It's going to be right here. Now, a common question we got on both the Forester and the Outback review was, if I turn it off here, will it turn back on each time I get back into the car? Well, we went ahead and investigated that. The answer is yes. So at each startup, that's going to turn back on. So you will have to turn it off, each time if it's something you choose to turn off. Now, obviously, this is not a car meant for like going on the back roads or anything like that, but it is important to recognize the improvements that Subaru made with this new generation. So on this new platform, one of the things they talked about was that structural rigidity is up 70%, so that's a big change, and you can definitely tell that from behind the wheel. You have pretty limited amount of body roll. Then I'm also very impressed by the steering. Like in recent Subarus, they've really done a good job of tuning it to be, both lightweight and comfortable when you're cruising around, but it also has like a natural feel to it. So it's not super artificial and weird feeling. So I'm liking that this dynamic package, it still is comfortable, but it has like a nice touch of dynamics to it. And overall, I just have to say this is really a pleasant vehicle to drive. Like I said, it's not going to storm the back roads or anything like that, but that's not who Subaru is going for with this Legacy. This is a comfortable vehicle. That's the most important thing, and it definitely succeeds in that aspect.
Alrighty, so now let's go ahead and discuss the pricing for this Subaru Legacy. Now do keep in mind that all of these will come standard with all-wheel drive, so that's a benefit on this Legacy. So for the 2.5i base, that's $22,745. The Premium, $24,995. Sport, $26,945. Limited, $29,745. And then you have the XT, which is that upgraded engine. XT Limited, $34,195, and XT Touring, $35,895. Now this particular model is the Limited, and we do also have the option package 34 for $2,045, Tech package number 2 for $824, and then all-weather floor liners for $132, which brings this one, when you add the $900 destination, to $33,646, which I have to say is a very good value in this midsize sedan market. A lot of them in their highest end trims will go honestly above 40 grand at this point, and this Subaru Legacy is definitely going to be a cheaper offering in the class, and it does also have standard all-wheel drive.
Well guys, we've enjoyed watching this in-depth look at the all-new 2020 Subaru Legacy Limited. We really appreciate you watching, and if you've made it this far in the video, hopefully that means you enjoyed it at least a little bit. So be sure to hit that subscribe button down below, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.